Hey, what's up, guys? Hopefully, I didn't jump the gun by saying that. Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? We've only got a couple people in here right now. I'm a couple minutes early for once, so that's good, I guess. Rick, what do you mean your switch is too tall? As in, it doesn't fit in the cavity underneath your pick guard? Is that the problem? See, I've just jumped right into answering questions. We'll get to the other stuff in a couple minutes here when it's actually 10 o'clock. How's it going, Mike? I get the sense that I don't spend a lot of time actually looking at the camera when I'm doing this. I apologize if that makes it weird. I'm trying to read comments because it's just me who does this. I don't have like a helper or anything like that. And I'm also on a computer. So my viewfinder is gigantic and my camera's a little thing at the top. So this is going to sound ridiculous, but I spend a weird amount of time just kind of staring at myself if I'm not careful. Good morning, all, or good evening if you're from a different time zone. Rick, that's unfortunate. I wonder if it would be a pretty easy something you could do with like a chisel as opposed to having to route out or whatever. If you could just take a little bit of wood out from underneath that. I've encountered a couple switches that were too big for guitars that I tried to put them in, and I just used a Forstner bit, yeah, and drilled down, part of a centimeter to make room for them. All right, it is now 10 a.m. So, hello everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm trying to, as you may be able to tell, because this is my second one in like 2 weeks or something like that, do a few more of these to give you guys opportunities to ask more questions, kind of easier and in a more personal way, and for me to answer them quicker because there have been quite a few lately, and I don't like keeping people waiting if I can avoid it. So today we're dedicating some time to just, there's no theme really, any questions you want. We'll talk a little bit about the subject of the hour, so to speak, with the great guitar build off, and a little bit about what's coming up. But it's a little bit of an open forum, more so than some of the other ones I've done where I had specific topics in mind. So feel free to fire away. I am relatively close to the screen here, so I should be able to see most of them. Favorite wood? Oh, come on. That's a tough one. Jeez, it depends on the application. Like my favorite fretboard wood is probably ebony, but it might be ziricote. My favorite top wood, probably Buckeye burl, but it depends on the application. Favorite body wood? I don't have a favorite body wood. I don't think it makes all that much difference. In fact, it's just aesthetics, and I think it just needs to match the theme, as far as I'm concerned. So many questions, so little Brad. Oh, there's. Okay, I'm not going to say there's plenty of Brad to go around. That would just sound weird. Good morning, 4th Avenue Guitars. I don't know what time zone you're in, but I should be able to figure it out pretty quick. Do I have whiskey in my coffee? No, I don't. I don't know why I don't, now that you've said that. I wouldn't mix anything up here in it, but I've got a couple bourbons downstairs that would go nice. What kits do I recommend for beginners? So for beginners, let's say this, the easiest kits, and I have like almost no examples here because I've taken the pick guards off of everything, but the easiest kits are the ones that have guards. So if you've got a Stratocaster kit, everything gets loaded into the guard. The connection to the guitar is very straightforward. There's less area that you need to worry about. You don't have to glue in a neck. Telecaster kits with guards also fairly straightforward. So I'd say a kit with a guard and a bolt-on neck would be what I would recommend for a beginner. And then it depends on your confidence level a little bit, because if you're, if you're thinking, I just want to mess around with this, it's my first time, I want to have some fun, get a cheap basswood kit. Like, there's no reason to go too crazy with it. Although transparent finishes like stain finishes are often easier for beginners, and you wouldn't really do that on a basswood kit, but you could. So that'd be my starting point. But if you're a little more confident, you can get something like this. This is a ash burl top telly from Solo Music Gear. Beautiful kit, comes with a pick guard, meets all the criteria, um, and is better for like a transparent finish. But it's a nicer kit. It's a little more expensive, so you kind of want to keep that in mind. If you're worried that you're going to struggle with a bunch of parts from it, then maybe don't go that route. The other nice thing though about these ones that have control plates or pick guards is if you really have a problem with the wiring, which is something that holds a lot of people up. I know to me, I feel like I'm looking at a plate of spaghetti every time I see guitar wiring. You can just buy a pre-wired, guard, pardon me, or a harness or something like that. So it really does make that aspect. It gives you some options, makes it easier if you want it to. When will we see you carve a neck? Well, Jim, right away is the answer to that one. So I have four projects that are like got to get them done as soon as possible. One is finishing up an interesting commission job for a guy from the east side of the country. That's going to be done shortly, and then one of the next two involves making a neck from scratch. So actually, part of what I'm doing today, after I leave here, I'm going to the shop and I'm going to make a fretboard. Just to make sure that everything is as it should be, because this guy wants a specific number of frets and everything that normally wouldn't go on this type of build. And then once I've got that figured out, then I'll make the fretboard out of his material and I'll make the neck and we'll carve the neck. Spoiler alert, I do it a lot like the guys at Texas Toast do. Gigantic round over bit to start with and then just smooth it out. Yeah. So one thing people don't realize, it's like when you start into YouTube and you're doing build videos, is you end up with hours of footage if you're filming all of your work. And I hate to say it, but it's been my thing for quite a while. Nobody wants to see hours of footage, so you spend a lot of time paring it down and editing it and trying to make it interesting. Not that it wouldn't be interesting, but you know what I mean. Trying to make it interesting for people who only have a few minutes to watch. Oh, Sam, in terms of relicing a kit or any raw wood thing, those are both options. So if you want I mean, there are inevitably going to be people when you ask how to relic a kit who say, play it for 30 years. And it's like, thanks for being so helpful. But anyway, there are two options really. First is the more authentic way, which is to go ahead and paint the whole thing and then take the paint off. And there are a number of ways to do that. And there are lots of great tutorials on how to do it. But if you're going to do something where you're seeing huge chunks of paint that aren't there as part of your design, then I would go ahead and mask off parts of those. You can always damage the wood a little bit after if you want to, but to remove all of that paint gets a little bit tiresome. If you're using nitrocellulose lacquer though, which is what you should be using for a relic job, it's not that hard. A lot of people try to abrade and or scrape it off, which is fine. That's more true to what would actually happen. But the fastest way for those bigger areas, if you're using nitro, is to just wipe it off with some lacquer thinner. If you've kept it thin like you generally would for a relic, it shouldn't be a problem. It comes off pretty quick. Ugliest guitar in the competition. Well, Kilo, it's an unusual build. So I didn't expect everyone to like it. I know some people do and some people don't, and that's fine. It looks like it's going to raise a fair bit of money for my chosen charity. So I'm happy with how it came out. But if it's not your thing, I can totally understand that. The further you get from the the classic shapes and stuff, probably the fewer people are going to like it, or at least the stronger the feelings will be about it. Try to stay kind of within that realm and just add a couple things that I thought would be good, but it's not going to be for everyone. I totally understand that. H-ball, yeah, you can. I mean, I'd give that a wipe down with some solvent first if your oil didn't work out, and then maybe a light sanding. But yes, you can paint over it depending on what kind of paint you're using. Uh, it is oil, so you do have to be careful. I wouldn't be lacquering over it generally, but if you're using like a polyurethane, should work fine. I've done it before. Yes, like the Mad Hatter wiring rigs are. I mean, they're probably the future, right? Like some people like soldering. I do not. Those seem those seem like a good plan. I mean, I have to look into those more. No, I'm not planning on publishing a book on guitar building and finishing, Victor. That would be interesting. You know what? I actually, this is going to be comical. As some of you may know, I have a day job that has nothing to do with this, and it involves a lot of hours. And I took a vacation once, and I thought my wife was going to throttle me because I said I was going to write an ebook on metal art. Needless to say, I didn't. I just drank the whole time instead. But there are a number of good books out on guitar building and finishing, and many of them are from people who who do this all day, every day for years and years and years. And although I think that I can help people finish their guitars and stuff, and I know enough about it, especially for the DIY people, I don't know that writing a book is really within my purview, so to speak. Hope Brad's trying to start a trash talk battle with the other bidders. I'm gonna stay out of that. But what I will say is thank you to everyone who has bid on any of the guitars, because they're all for charity. But of course, a special thank you to anyone who's bid on mine. There are 5 days left, so we'll chat about that for a minute and then jump back into the questions. There are 5 days left on the bids. They're all now not just on they are just on the eBay for Crimson, which is in the UK. But if you go to the Great Guitar Build Off website, you can now find them much more easily. They're available on there. So take a look there if you're interested in any of them. And if you have an opportunity to support the charities, excellent. If you, of course, feel like donating to the charities but can't afford one of the guitars, I'm sure all the builders would appreciate it. It doesn't have any connection to us per se, but it's important to us. I think that's why we do it, or at least that's why I do it. What did you guys think of Colin's guitar? Like, he won by a landslide. There were 5,000 some odd votes. He got 2,300 of them or something like that. I know there was no adjustment for how many subscribers you have, but I don't think that really matters in this case. Like, his guitar was excellent. The only thing I didn't like about Colin's entire setup was that he chose Lefroy as his scotch that he like drank with it or demoed with it. Too smoky not too smoky, but not my favorite. Anyway, incredible that he did that, and especially on that tiny little rickety workbench. What do you use to make a maple neck look like it's seen every bar in North America? Oh, well, there are some different ways of doing like aged stains and stuff. Some people dissolve steel wool in vinegar or use coffee, that kind of thing. It depends though on what exactly you're looking for, because if you want a guitar that looks like it had a solvent finish on it, like a nitrocellulose lacquer, but then looks like a bunch of whiskey got spilled on it and kind of eroded that, then you're going to have to get a little bit more specific. And I would do something very similar to that. I would use some nitrocellulose lacquer, probably a satin, because I don't like gloss necks. Then I would use either the sun or a UV light to age that and yellow it a little bit. Or if I was in a bit of a hurry, which I usually am, I'd put a touch of amber in it if I'm doing it by gun, because that will give it that aged ambered look. And then I would go in probably with a little bit of Scotch Brite or steel wool, and frankly, some cheap whiskey, or even good whiskey if you wanted to waste it on that. But I don't know why you would, or vodka. I mean, who drinks that crap? And just wipe down / scuff down some of the top parts where it would typically drip on there. The only thing is you need to make sure you smooth it out after. Otherwise, you're going to feel that. And although it's not bad to have a neck look like it's been through every bar in North America, the only part of that feel that you want is the comfort rounding on the fretboard. So in order to do that, you would sand right on the edges of the fretboard to round everything over. That's why old guitars feel so nice. If you don't want to sand, There's another option. You can take a burnishing tool and just gently kind of push those in. I don't think I've ever talked about that trick before. Thanks, Laura. You too. I hope you raise lots of money for your chosen charity. And thanks for coming on. What time is it there? Anyway, welcome aboard. So Rick says use shellac between different types of finish. It allows the adhesion to both products. And I'd like to comment on that because shellac is widely compatible. Like it works with pretty much everything. So he's got a great point. That's the upside, and it's a strong upside, and I agree with the recommendation. The only downside is shellac typically has a hue to it. So if you don't want to amber your finish at all, then there's a little bit of a risk there because that probably will. So your other alternative is to use, usually, now you got to be a little bit more careful, but your other alternative is something like a waterborne acrylic. Also broadly compatible. You can put it on very thin, and it doesn't really have any solvent to react with anything. So that works on a lot of stuff. You do have to be very careful about trying to use it over an oil finish, though. I would avoid that for the most part. I leave I leave the glue-in neck clamped. Trial by fire. I'm answering your question here. When I'm doing a glue-in neck, I leave it clamped quite hard for about an hour, and then I loosen it off slightly and leave it clamped for the next 24 hours. That is something I learned a very long time ago, making cutting boards. Loosening it off slightly, I was told prevents it from being brittle. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's how I learned to do it, and it's always worked for me. So that's what I would recommend without the benefit of any further information on it. It's an old habit. Yes, Don, you would dye, then sanding sealer, then nitro. The complexity here, and I should do a video on this, but the confusing part for people is when they're grain filling. It's like, when do I grain fill? And well, the answer is it depends. You would typically you're kind of in trouble both ways with normal grain filler, just a little bit, because if you dye first and then grain fill, then obviously your grain filler doesn't have dye in it. Not great. If you grain fill and then dye, the grain filler doesn't absorb the dye properly. So there are two workarounds that I like to use. One of them is using the clear grain filler from Crystalac. So I'll dye it, then I'll use my clear grain filler from them. Great stuff. And then my sealer, and then my clear. The other alternative, and one that I use very frequently, is to dye your grain filler before you put it in. So again, you would grain fill before, or sorry, after doing your, no, in that case, sorry, you would do it before. Confused myself. I'm not even hungover today, really. Like dye your grain filler black, for example. Push it in, sand it back so that it's accenting the grain. Then do your dye work, then your sealer, then your clear. No, Michael, I haven't heard of gili wrong. I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that. I assume that is guitar related work. I'll make a quick note of that, and I'll have to check them out. My chat mic sound quality is under average. Okay, I've got this is what I think I'm using here. Can you guys hear me correctly? I assume it's not great, but sorry. I do have a voiceover microphone that I might be able to hook up next time. The only problem is as soon as I move, then it stops sounding good. But I'll take a look. Do you build your t-shirts? Do you buy bigger? Well, Laura, I just order them and hope for the best, and then I get trash talked about it. So fair enough. This is a Canadian large. I don't know what you guys have over there. But yeah, that's a classic comment. Like, how many weeks did you leave that in the dryer after you washed it? Hey, boys, extra small. Oh, tough crowd. Guitar That is an Ibanez S320. Um, yeah, that's it with swapped out pickups. So I've got a DiMarzio Evolution in the neck and an X2N in the bridge, which I love. Honestly, like those aren't. I mean, these are now my favorite pickups in this space, but those are my second favorite. And those Wizard necks I love. So the only thing is that it doesn't really matter what I love because I never play guitar. What's up, Webster? Thank you, Bonehead Guitars. I did try to. I mean, I'm not really trying to promote the Great Guitar Build Off per se, but to a degree, I am. At least the invitational parts for charity, and I think that the main contest is just a great opportunity for people to have a bunch of fun, make some cool guitars, see what everybody's doing, and you know, there are, I think, at least, a number of people who have been doing builds and kind of looking for a reason or a way to get into making videos about them. And a lot of you have, like, I'm sure you're not taking your cues from me here, but a lot of you have provided some valuable information. It's not just a build video, it's a build video telling people what your thought process was or what you did or how you did it. And that's been the whole purpose of my channel, is showing people how to do things, trying to help people out with that. So I think the Great Guitar Build Off is awesome, and it provides a lot of valuable information. The only issue is there's so much of it. So it's fun trying to sort through it. But yeah, what's my favorite Scotch? Oh man, you're killing me here. That changes frequently. Right now, I think I'm not going to bother pulling it out. It's in there though. My favorite is probably the Dalmore cigar malt. That's the flavor of the day, so to speak. 9 a.m. in California. So the answer is, it okay if I put a little snort in my coffee? It depends on how nice it is out and what you have to do today. It doesn't matter if it's 9 a.m. Live your life, man. 160 centimeters tall. No, but I am not tall. I'm not shorter than that, so don't start with me. But anyway, not tall. Uh, how do you get a butterscotch finish? What kind of paint do you want to use? And are you looking for a transparent or a clear? I mean, you can, the easiest way is to just get a butterscotch blonde lacquer, I think, and do just a classic. You can do a spray can lacquer finish. They sell a lot of those vintage colors. Oxford has them. Yeah, several companies have them. I think Gracie's is another one in the US that has them. These kind of vintage color nitrocellulose lacquer spray cans. I keep shaking the computer. I'm sorry. So do that. Spray your sanding sealer, spray your vintage blonde, and then clear coat. West Coast coffee. I think that's how Irish coffee is served. Okay. One thing that I wanted to ask you guys, actually, and this is me asking you, other than just throwing your questions out here, I've been, and now that Laura's brought it up, I've been hoping or thinking of making a couple more really small T-shirts. Nobody buys my T-shirts, but I plan on having a couple because they're fun to wear in my videos. So if anybody's got any ideas for what should be on them, other than just my logo in the corner, because I'm boring like that, let me know. If you could actually drop that in a comment. Not, I know people are going to be tempted to do it right now. If you do it right now, I'll try to remember it, but it will disappear. So if you would be so kind as to drop that into a comment after the live stream ends, then I can see it. But if you do it now, I'll try and remember. Trying to think of some ideas that people will like, and something that will work for me. And I guess I'll have to try and get them in an extra large next time. Okay, I think I'm relatively caught up. It's tough. There are a lot of very small comments that are sometimes a little difficult to keep up with. Oh, until somebody does that. Thank you, Webster. Much appreciated on the super chat. I can read that quite easily. In the shop with a cup of coffee, overthinking where I'm going to place the humbucker on this single pickup build. classically, when you see, I'm not trying to, it's your guitar, so of course, do as you will, but classically, when you see a single humbucker build, it's usually in the bridge position and occasionally a little bit angled for, I don't know, for flavor. Um, I'm more of a neck pickup guy most of the time. That'll be interesting. Maybe right in the middle. Who knows? Good luck with that. Uh, it, as you know, where you place the pickup does affect how it's going to sound. You're also going to have to determine what kind of pickup you want. Do you want to put a bridge pickup kind of in the middle if you're doing that? Do you want to put a neck pickup in the middle? They are slightly different spaced, I think, but I really don't think that that makes a difference. That's one of those myths that everybody's been overthinking for a while. It does make a little bit of a difference. The ratio, like the distance between the string and the magnet, is of course important, but um, that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to checking it out. My T-shirt needs a silhouette of my fabulous. Okay, Laura. Jeez, you are a character. Uh, hey, if you'd buy it, maybe I'll make it. We'll see. In the stove with Angove. I'm not sure I get it, James. In the stove. Care to elaborate on that theme? This is exactly what I needed to be live on the internet and not get someone's joke, so I can just stand here sounding like a goofball trying to figure it out. Perfect. One volume knob, yeah. Webster, if you put two volume knobs on a single pickup guitar, I will appreciate it, but also question it. Don, yeah. So I mean, headstock with 8.8 millimeter holes needs to be widened to 10 millimeter. The easiest way to widen, I mean, you can just drill it out is the short answer, but the easiest way to widen out holes, in my opinion, is with a stepper bit. You know what I mean? The ones that kind of look like a staircase, step bits. They center very nicely. They're great for that. And the way that they're shaped tends not to damage finish as much as a normal bit. They're not as aggressive. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the easiest way to do it. You just need to be careful, of course, especially if it's painted. If it's not painted, then it's pretty straightforward. Oh, you're just trying to run in the stove with Angove. Okay, well, it does rhyme. I'll see if I can think up something that makes sense around that. Eddie, yeah, you know what? I will try to make a video on recovering from an issue with 2K Clear. I mean, really, the answer is you let it dry and then you sand any runs or drips out, and then you probably add another coat or two or three. The problem, of course, is if you're doing a 2K spray can, and this is a good time to mention this. If you're doing a 2K spray can, of course, you have a shelf life that you need to worry about once it's activated. So that can be problematic. On the bright side, I have a video coming out shortly about a 2K spray can that doesn't need to be activated. That activates, catalyzes once it hits the air. So it doesn't have the shelf life issue. I don't know how much these things cost. I should really look it up. Probably a lot, but they seem to be really good so far. So I'm finishing a test paint job with those right now because it's a full 2K system that's available, including an epoxy primer and a color and then the clear. But you can obviously just use the clear. So we'll take a look at that soon. Oh, H-ball, I'm not sure if there is a specific size of screw per se. Anything that fits through the holes. Okay, I don't know what size they would be. I have an assortment of small screws kicking around from various builds, and I've just used like the screws that are used to mount an output jack. I've used those to direct mount pickups before, and they work just fine. Yeah, Eddie, the nice thing though, I mean, you don't want to spray too little because then you're not going to get proper protection. But the little bit of overspray that screws with the gloss, you can deal with that by doing your sand and polishing. What I would say is try, if you can, it's when a guitar is vertical. I mean, you'll see guys like me, we typically spray the guitar vertical face, right? It's comfortable for us. We're used to it. It helps prevent dust from getting on it, that kind of stuff. Like that's how we generally do it. And then we flip it to flat to dry. There's a reason for that. I just told you why we spray it vertical. The reason we flip it to flat is so that the paint will self level and you're less likely to get drips. Now, it still happens on the edges, but it's less likely on the faces. If you're having trouble with drips, just paint it in that flat position. Yeah, you're more likely to get some dust in it and that kind of stuff, but it's worth it. You can sand that out. You won't get a drip spraying on a flat surface. I mean, you don't want to load it on there so it's like cascading off the edges, of course, but it's also a lot easier to fix a drip right on an edge than it is to sand out an entire flat surface with a drip on it. So there's your tip for the day. Okay, I think I'm a little behind here. What's up, Joe? Oh yeah, good point, Jim. Yeah, card scraper can also take runs off. I've done it with a razor blade too. It doesn't have to be sanding. The key is you have to level it out, and you don't want to leave gouges. So if you're not used to doing the scraper method, maybe do a test piece and try it out on there. How do I get quality finishing supplies for cheaper? Scott, what kind of quality finishing supplies are you looking for? Because I mean, you can get a quality finish from a number of different things, right? There are some arguments out there on the internet, like there are about everything, but I mean, you can get a good finish on a guitar using just standard spray cans if you know what you're doing. It just takes some time. It's a little harder, a little more effort, and they take longer to dry, but you can do it. It's not like just because you paint your guitar with a finish you got from Home Depot, it's not going to be okay. You just have to do it right. So the answer is uh, you can use cheaper finishing supplies. You just have to make sure you're using them correctly. Thank you, Mr. Alvarado. I'm glad that you found my videos helpful. That's the idea. That's why I make them. Help people out. Hopefully, I know a few people have said they've been inspired to paint their guitars as a result of that. I don't know if that's a good thing per se, but gaining the confidence to do it and the information needed for it. That is the objective. All right, I'm going to take a few more questions here, and then I have to get to the shop because I'm making a fretboard, which I will be showing you guys. But it's making sure that everything works before I make another fretboard out of, I think, Ziracote, which is my favorite fretboard wood, for someone. So yeah, we'll take a couple more, and then I'm going to get over there, and we'll have a video on that coming out soon, along with these painting videos and probably a video where I talk about everybody's guitar build off builds. All right, Brad, good point. Um, Brad won my auction last year. He bought my guitar last year, and his suggestion this year, which I loved, was to use one of these output jacks. Nice little recessed output jack. Nothing messing with the area of the finish or anything on this build. And I don't think, yeah, I don't think I even showed that when I was doing my video. Last year, I did my build video, and then I did a much longer version of it that ended up being more tutorial style. This year, you hopefully saw my build video. I will be doing a tutorial on this finish because I know a lot of people were interested in it. But yeah, I didn't show all of that. So there you go. That's the output jack. Any Canadian pickups I like? I'm not sure which pickups are Canadian and which ones aren't. Honestly, is there a company that you had in mind, Don? I just order my pickups from wherever. Thanks, Scott. I'm hoping the fretboard will turn out good. I plan on putting my logo in there and everything, so should be fun. James, you jeez. You should do some poetry for me. I'll put that on the t-shirts. Okay, I'm gonna do these two questions real quick, and then I'm gonna get my butt to the shop. So trial by fire. Yeah, I would consider doing a vinyl guitar video, like a vinyl wrap, but probably not a full wrap. I've done work with vinyl. I used to make signs and stuff like that back when I was actually working at the shop. And I could do a flat surface, but I can't imagine being able to do a proper wrap. So what I'll probably show is how to do a vinyl top on a guitar and then paint a burst around the outside to mask the edges and then paint the rest of it. That's what I suspect I will end up doing. Um, I'm calling you Mr. Alvarado because I don't know how to pronounce the rest of your name. Why I don't like a glossy finish on a neck. Lots of people do like a glossy finish on a neck. So this isn't an objective thing. It's not everybody's preference. Some people like the glossy finish, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't. That doesn't mean I won't play a guitar with a glossy finish, but I find that my hand sticks to it. Like I find that it holds me up a little bit. I prefer kind of the oiled finish, the low sheen version, whether that's satin or preferably an oil, because I just find it more comfortable. I think it feels better, and I think my hand moves faster on it. But that's not everyone. Brad, thank you, much appreciated. I think I said this last time. I did a live video 2 weeks ago, and I got a number of these super chats, and it was pretty much the first time it had ever happened. And I was like, "What is all this color?" But sure makes it easier to read your comments. It's very generous of you. I appreciate it. Thank you. To the T-shirt fund. Yeah, I will. I'll get working on those. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this one. I do try to keep these to about 30 minutes. My usual justification is that I have a topic and I want people to be able to actually watch the video and learn the topic. Today, we don't have that, but I do need to go make a fretboard and get some painting tutorials done so I can post some videos for you guys. So I'm going to head out. Thank you for coming. Much appreciated. Hopefully, the half an hour was an appropriate amount of time for you to finish your coffee. I was pretty close, even though I've been talking the whole time. And now you can move on to your late morning beer or your early afternoon whiskey or whatever part of your beverage schedule you're on. Thanks again, guys. Hope you liked it. And yeah, leave your t-shirt suggestions if you have them in the comments after I end this, if you don't mind. That way I'll be able to see them. See you next time. Oh, I hit end and then not yet.